Hello, we're Game Over, and welcome to our video discussing the new episode of Game of Thrones named Home. I'm Max.
I'm Matt.
I'm Dan.
So, Jon Snow is back, officially.
I thought it was quite... It's a problem with the show as a whole, really, that it's not very cinematic. It's very cinematic, but it's not very artistic or artisanal in any way. The whole thing was like, is he alive? Is he going to wake up? Is he going to... 3, 2, he's away. He's away. Of course, we all knew it was going to happen.
They missed such a chance to play with those conventions. I was actually really loving being toyed with in that scene where they kept just doing these lingering, really tense shots of his body.
Yeah.
And if it's like, no, he failed. He's not alive. That would have been so good because it would have been so fucking bleak as well because it built you up. But I think it
would have completely subverted all of the the audience expectations.
Everyone would have gone.
Bringing it back in episode 2. Like
so early.
Yeah.
This is what I was talking about to my mate yesterday. Like it was just kind of like sex with no foreplay. It's the second episode. This is the biggest thing. This is our generation's Who Shot JR. The thing that everyone's been not going on about for so long, and they go. Straight away, boing. I wanted to be fiddled with. I wanted some more foreplay, especially because we established Melisandre really early on as having lost her faith.
Yeah.
It totally devalues that whole kind of character shift in her. If in the next episode it's like, don't worry, love.
I was right.
It's all right, really.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
Like you said, we gain nothing new from it. All it does is go to his life. Like imagine if he sort of opened his eyes and they were the White Walker blue. Like that tells us something else.
Well, that was one of the predicted things, wasn't it? That was the biggest sort of tinfoil hat thing going on for a while. It was will he be a White Walker? Will he be one of these kind of things?
I mean, to be fair, we don't have enough information to go on, but it looks like he's just normal Jon Snow.
He's just going to be brought back from the dead in much the same way that
Beric Dondarrion.
Dondarrion was brought back 6 times.
When I was watching the scene, I really enjoyed it. I mean, when he came back, I was like, yeah! It was only retrospective thinking about it that I thought, do you know what, that could have been done a hell of a lot better. Even the one that we've discussed a lot, you used the word Stargarian in your upcoming written review, where they try to burn him on the pyre, and
how good would that be?
He doesn't get burned, he just wakes up
when,
like Daenerys
when Tormund comes in
he
with
says,
the
I'll
thing.
get some wood. Yeah.
Let's burn him. And I'm like, alright, fuck it, we're getting to the Stargarian thing. No, he's alive. Should I tell you what's really anticlimactic about this whole Jon Snow thing? It's literally all in the same night. Like Jon Snow was killed like sort of 20 minutes ago, basically.
Oh shit!
There's no time has passed. You think she's trying to bring him back from like 2 days ago, and it's just it's
literally the same night. They're like, Melisandre. In their world, they're like, and he's back.
What's he going to come back as? Is he going to be still Jon Snow, stoic Lord Commander, or has he kind of has his contract kind of been bought out now with his death? And is he going to come back as like Jon Stark, or will he be Azor Ahai now?
Well, they haven't really alluded to the Azor Ahai thing very much, have they? Which I think is weak, because that's the reason Jon Snow's special. Like Jon Snow has come back. And he better be different, because Beric Dondarrion said every time I came back to life,
you lose a little piece of myself.
Yeah, I came back a bit more thinly stretched. And if Jon Snow's literally the same guy, it tells us nothing new other than he's alive. And I feel like it's a problem with the show that it isn't very artsy. That's not even me being pretentious. I expect more of it, particularly when the book's thousands of pages long. I feel like this season, as well as last season, are more like a sort of medieval fantasy show dressed up as Game of Thrones. Because if you look at series 1, 2, 3, and even 4, with Oberyn, with Joffrey,
it's harsh, isn't it?
It is, and then in this one, it's like, what would be cool? This. What would be cool? That.
Well, this is the issue now.
It's getting a bit pandery and a bit generic TV, particularly as Game of Thrones is supposed to be a prestige picture, but the way I see it now, it's getting a little more soapy.
And that's because we're moving away from the books now. I think that we're getting more cliche.
Yeah,
they've overtaken the books, haven't they? Now we could see more happening with the whole kind of warg thing going. The first being to know that Jon Snow was going to come back was Ghost. Yeah.
I didn't like that kind of telegraphing, because well, that's fucked up the tension. Because he's gone, oh, hello.
Yeah, basically. And you knew as soon as he didn't leave the room and stepped by his side, before he even opened his eyes again, it's like, well, Jon Snow. I mean, that's obviously the scene where Jon Snow comes back, but I understand why they brought him back so early from a kind of producer's point of view as opposed to a character point of view.
But that's a bit pandery, isn't it?
It is pandery.
They had to get it out early, basically.
Yeah, because they're now pressed for time. There's only going to be a couple more series. They're going to be shorter seasons.
Yep.
Ramsay's going to storm Castle Black, I predict. After all that goes down, they're not. It's going to be last series where Daenerys comes back. So they have to bring Jon Snow back now to fight this coming war. But again, it is shoehorned in very kind of.
It just depends where they go with it, doesn't it? Like also, imagine the scene when they first see that he's alive again. As someone who likes to think I can write. I don't know how I'd have that work. You know, they've all left the room, then John's going to get back up and Davos is going to be like, fucking hell, man. You know, what are they going to say? But anyway, that's...
It worked.
Let's move on.
It's just before we move on, something I wrote about in my Red Woman review about Jon Snow coming back, that Beric Dondarrion, when he got brought back by Thoros of Myr, it was Thoros didn't believe in the Red God anymore. He didn't believe in the Red God anymore, or at least he was questioning his faith. His friend had died, and he said the words because there weren't any other words left to say, and he came back. And I think they kind of mirror that with Melisandre. And you know what? I reckon it's not even the magic words she said that brought him back, but just she went.
Feeling of.
Well, no, she actually went, please, before that was the last thing she said. And I think it's in her desperation. I honestly, I think the Red God might just react to desperation. To be honest,
that would be really nice.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Boltons.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do we think? Well, I mean, first of all, we got to talk about the fact that Ramsay straight up killed Roose, who I really like. I thought Roose was excellent. I thought he was going to live.
Yeah.
And he was a good ruthless pragmatist, to quote another of our favourite characters.
I mean, he was Tyrion Lannister of the North.
Kind of in a similar manner in which I felt about the Jon Snow resurrection scene. When Ramsay killed him, I thought, oh,
hello.
I enjoyed that. But later on I thought, actually,
bit boring.
Is that a bit shit?
I mean, a lot of the episode was, I've written here, conceived and executed in the most pedestrian manner. Because it was. Because Roose got stabbed, he fell over, and then that was that. I mean, Roose Bolton's a big deal. Roose Bolton is one of the most powerful characters in the show. He owns the fucking North, you know, that's thousands of miles. The thing is, and I was saying this to you yesterday at like 2 a.m. or whatever, Ramsay he has that excellent line where he goes, I'm Lord Bolton, and it was quite corny, but he did it very well.
Like Palpatine going, I am the Senate. That was really nice. And I enjoyed the fact that he was just like, minions go forth. With the dogs.
The thing is, he isn't Lord Bolton. He's still he's a bit of a dick, and he's also a bastard.
And
he isn't the strategist, the politician, or anything that Roose was.
Roose value that presumably Jon's campaign to retake Winterfell later on.
Because Ramsay's just a crazy, basically.
Yeah. Sorry, Max, carry on.
As has been mentioned by Ramsay himself, actually, that he said he doesn't need all of the North. He only needs certain houses. Well, he's going to lose a hell of a lot more because as soon as Theon gets back to the Iron Islands, he's going to be, if not an heir, then he's going to have a say in, certainly getting back at the Boltons. As soon as Sansa gets to Castle Black with a newly resurrected Jon Snow, that puts her back in charge of Winterfell. So already, the remnants of all of these forces, and the wildling. Obviously Ramsay's going to lose horribly with this, but it's how it's going to happen in the next series. It's going to be interesting. He has no idea what's coming up. What he's coming up against.
I don't think.
Which is why Roose didn't do it.
So bad. And I mean, the only reason House Bolton is standing is by the sheer force of will of Roose Bolton, much like the same with House Lannister.
I really like that comparison you made with him being Tywin of the North.
We've seen in the trailer for the series, not the next episode, that Ramsay's on his horse and they're getting ready for the big wildling Bolton fight, which is going to be huge. But Ramsay isn't a politician. He's just a fucking madman.
But he might be a decent commander. Anyway, the thing I'd really love to see is when they know, we're all taking this as granted that Jon's going to lead a wildling army back. We've seen it in the fucking trailer. It's obviously going to happen. If they take another bit from history, I'd really love to see him be, as they're marching towards Winterfell, the Boltons love to flay people, particularly Ramsay. What if, kind of in the same way Vlad the Impaler did, there's just like a line of flayed men lining the road between Castle Black and Winterfell.
Very Spartacus. Just
imagine even seeing Tormund go, fucking hell, this guy's a nutter, what are we facing? That would just be a lovely moment.
That would be
I just want to see Ramsay basically be Vlad the Impaler / Caligula, just be an absolute nutcase.
I mean, the potential is, if there's any character that could do it, it's him. I mean, Joffrey was a little boy, as much of a little shit as he was.
Well, that's it. Ramsay
is not. He's a sadist.
Kind of capable as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of times, I'm sure if someone has done a supercut, of the amount of times that Roose has cut down Ramsay, being like, "Ooh, don't do that, bit silly."
It's like Steve Merchant. Oh, sorry, Rick, you can't say that.
I mean, even last episode when Roose was like, "Do you feel like a victor?" and he's, "Oh, fuck, that's quite embarrassing." Yeah. I'm not. And so I guess he's got. I want to see Ramsay come into his own as a proper character, because the thing is, we've written this in the review that every scene with Ramsay, you always expect him to be just the worst shit in the Seven Kingdoms. Everything's up to 11 with him. Yeah. He fails to be shocking because everything he does is horrible. It's like telling the same joke over and over again.
You can't imagine at this point that will happen because, the not love interest that he has, but his heart's interest, he cut up and fed to the dogs. after she was dead. He said that your pain will be repaid 1,000 times. It probably will be, but that's because you enjoy it, not because you feel sad in any way. And he kills his own dad.
He kills his own dad, and then he kills an infant. So that's never happened before. I thought he was going to actually chuck it in the fire as he walked past, which I thought would have been more rousage.
He's menacing, and they do make really lovely tense scenes with him. But on the topic of tense scenes, Tyrion going into the dragon lair. That was really nice. I think that was the best scene in the episode, actually, for my money.
I'm going to say no, but we'll get to that later. It was good because I actually wrote down in my notes for it that Tyrion's talking to the dragon and he's like, "One time I want a dragon," and they're listening. I was like, and is Tyrion going to be the head of the dragon or one of the heads?
Well,
of the dragon?
I was going to say, I reckon it's going to be Tyrion, then Jon Snow. Yeah. Quite possibly. It's got to be Jon. There's no other three. Is it there? Yeah.
But no, the scene I thought was most interesting. It's because it was so straight out of a horror film. It was the scene where Balon Greyjoy, who we haven't seen for like 2-3 seasons, he crosses the old rickety bridge. I mean, the Ironborn have got balls of steel or iron.
That was ominous. That had ominous written all over it.
It did.
Going there.
I mean, he was crossing the bridge and he's like, "I'm not very nice sometimes," and then cool, good-looking Euron Greyjoy pulls back his hood. Even though we haven't got a name for him, his name's Euron. Balon goes, "You can make fun of our god all you want, but I am the drowned god. I am the storm." Is
he
so
over? You go.
Is he just grandiose, or is he a bit of a nutcase?
He's been literally tied to the mast of a ship, hasn't he? And for going, and having gone insane and cutting out his own shipmates' tongues. He's going to be a serious.
How badass is it?
Mean Odysseus.
Yeah. His ship is called the Silence because all his crew don't have tongue.
Cool name. So
yeah,
it's
and
just
they've got black.
Isn't it?
He's basically going to be sort of like Ramsay of the Ironborn. He is a fucking psycho,
but more canny, I feel.
More worldly, probably as well.
So I guess we're going to see more power struggles there between the rest of the family and him.
Yeah, we know now that Euron's a madman. We get this bit where they're giving the Viking funeral to Balon, and then Yara goes, "I'm going to swear vengeance. Can I be king?" And then damp hair Aeron Greyjoy goes, "Don't be silly, all right? We're not barbarians. We have democracy, and probably not a woman king, to be honest. Either. We've met some other Greyjoys, which is great. We've met Euron, or we've met Aeron, so we've met the three."
But how significant are the Greyjoys going to be? I thought they had basically had all their assets stripped. They're like North Korea. They're just shunned on their own now.
Well, they say they command no fleet can beat them.
We've got the Kingsmoot coming up. So the new king of the Iron Islands is going to be decided, or the Lord Reaper of Pike. Isn't it? I think it's going to be Euron, but I think Theon is going to come back in, and he might be sort of like Hand of the King. Also, I mean, they don't have Hand of the King, but there's no way Theon's just going to come back and suffer more torture at the hands of Euron. I think he has to sort of redeem himself this series, and if he can lead a Greyjoy army up north for some personal vengeance against the Boltons. I just don't
understand why he'd have any credibility left there. And is he going to come in and be like the leader of the opposition, Jeremy Corbyn, to Euron Greyjoy's Cameron? I
guess he holds sway with Sansa now because he's obviously helped her out quite a bit. She maybe isn't indebted to him, but has kind of, they've gone through an ordeal together, which will definitely unify them against the Boltons and probably sway Jon Snow to not kill him. I mean, the only one that's definitely going to know, which we haven't talked about yet, is the Three-Eyed Raven scene.
Oh, so I thought that was so good. Like, we've never had flashbacks before. It was like walking into the past. We get young Ned, we get young Benjen, and young Ned says to young Benjen, you keep that shield up or I'll ring your head like a bell, which is exactly what Jon said to Ollie when he was training him back in series 4 or 5.
Sorry.
Fuck Ollie. I mean, when the giant grabbed that guy's foot and just against the wall, I want that to be Ollie. Or the Tormund to just sort of...
Some shit trickled down Ollie's house at that point. But the most significant thing we saw in that flashback, we saw Lyanna
Stark.
Yep.
And in the trailer for next episode, we're getting that flashback to the Tower of Joy, where we get young Ned. He really does look like Sean Bean, by the way, and he's got the be more dog, O2 kind of voice. So I'm looking forward to that. The fight with Sir Arthur Dane, who's got 2 swords instead of 1.
I read a thing. I think that's actually is it Ian McShane's character with the double swords?
Ooh.
Because Arthur Dane, we spoke about that. He's got the one
the great sword,
conspicuously called Dawn. But either way, that's going to be one of the most illuminating scenes in the series so far.
Well, it's going to be a definitive answer to a mystery. To be honest, I know it's like cool if Jon Snow's parents are Rhaegar and Lyanna, but what does it really bring to the table?
Plus, we don't know who Rhaegar is. We do.
We've heard about
we've
heard about Rhaegar. He's like the shit.
I don't think enough though.
No. It's like bringing up Darth Plagueis.
Baby born in the Tower of Joy, Daenerys.
That's interesting. I've not heard that one actually.
And also, we need to for viewers,
Rhaegar is Daenerys' dad, brother.
Well, they're all incestuous. Who knows what the fuck's going on with that? It's just a fun theory because it'd be something different than the obvious Jon Snow, wouldn't it?
But with the Jon Snow theory, for some reason, one of the linchpins of the theory is Ned Stark wouldn't cheat on his wife. Why not? He went to war like 20 years ago.
He didn't even know her that well at the time.
And he didn't like her that much either. How do you know what someone would and wouldn't do?
But if he comes back immediately from from the Tower of Joy with a child, does that not that means that it could be Rhaegar as opposed to him?
I think they'll leave it ambiguous. But
so
what we have to look out for in that Tower of Joy scene: red comet, salt, smoke. If it's going to be an allusion to our prophecy.
What if salt isn't like salt? What if it's just like people getting salty about CS:GO? Something like that.
I'm not sure about that. Maybe someone was just having some chips beforehand. It doesn't matter. And smoke.
So look out for that. If
they burnt the fish. Something like that. I think there will be quite an obvious salt and smoke thing. Not to mention, there'll be a pan down when we arrive in the flashback. There'll be that red comet again. Then we'll see that fight with Ned. He'll go out there. I don't think they'll piss about with it too long.
It's certainly true that Jon Snow's rebirth, there's no salt, there's no smoke, there's nothing like that. I went back and watched
it. There was
no salt or smoke. So I guess maybe his actual birth. If that's him, they haven't even brought up Azor Ahai. So I honestly don't even know. It's a good episode, though.
It is. I feel a bit more with this series. It has kind of jumped in. It's jumped in very, very early with Jon Snow coming back. We're going to get the Tower of Joy. We're going to get the reveal of who Jon Snow is. Probably we're going to be left on a cliffhanger end of episode 3, and we're going to get it episode 4. So a lot of these things will happen quickly, but it does make a sort of bit of a difference from the kind of like ponderous, constant build-up with no payoff for series 5.
I feel like this season so far, has actually been quite shallow. Like when Roose and Doran got killed, the treatment was the same. They got killed and then that's that.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you remember in any of the earlier seasons, from 1 through till 4, someone got killed and people talk about it and they mull it over and we focus on it cinematically as well. This one's he's dead now. As I've always said since last week, so there you go. So that's when you begin always. Is the fact of Ilaria taking Doran prisoner, putting him in the cell, or the fact of Ramsay taking Roose prisoner, it's more telling than just him straight out killing him. Because although murder has its implications, if Ramsay is allowed to imprison Roose, if Ilaria is allowed to imprison Doran, it says more about not just him but also the people around him that they're going.
That's why the Setson works so well, because they've imprisoned Marjorie and at one point Cersei as well. So there's that whole kind of it completely played on the power dynamic that was. The Lannisters were always in control of everything. One thing we should talk about as well is the rest of Cersei's prophecy. The
prophecy to her is coming true, and the fact that the prophecy has been mentioned is good. And I think, as I said in my review, she'll grow sort of maddeningly and possibly murderously more protective of Tom and herself as well, because the prophecy ends with her getting choked out by the Valconar, which means little brother, which could be Tyrion, probably not, could be Jaime, but it doesn't necessarily mean her little brother. What if the Hound comes back and...
Shit.
Clegane Bowl.
This has been a much better episode than I think the last one, just because it's not just empty portent really. It's hopefully going somewhere.
I think we can expect pace from it. I think it's started off really fast paced, but now everything's converging now, with the exception of like maybe Arya Stark. She's still doing her own thing. I mean,
also, what about when he's like, a girl is no one, like that guy, like she blatantly
bullshit.
She obviously doesn't believe it, and I don't understand why Jack has taken her back, or even why we're following this thread. Like, unless she truly commits to being no one, she obviously can't let go of being Arya Stark. For a long time I've said the series is the parents die, the kids go away, they get more powerful and they come back together and it's going to be really good. Absolutely. But the way I'm seeing it now is that the kids go away and some of them get darker, or I'm not convinced all the Stark kids will come back wholly good, basically. And I think it
would be very shit if they did.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see what he does actually, to be fair, because he has been very much left on the kind of fringe of things, and if he comes back, I mean, it could just be as somebody who is prophetic in some. I mean, I can't. It will be interesting to see how he comes to play. It's something that I've actually not really. I don't have too much of a theory on, because there's been so little to go on with him. I mean, what do you think? I don't know.
I'm really
not sure.
He's kind of independent now, isn't he?
Well,
I think
he's allied himself
he's
with
going
Bloodraven,
by
who's
his
actually
own-
playing a different game.
What, trying to get another Targaryen on the throne? eventually?
Bloodraven is just the people really playing the Game of Thrones are Varys, Littlefinger, and Bloodraven. So Bloodraven
And previously, Doran.
Doran,
Yeah.
which fucking waste.
But
But,
then, yeah, they bollocks
Blood,
up
but
again.
Bloodraven is very powerful, and he isn't. He probably isn't good. You know, he's probably not evil, but he's not just. Well, let me teach you some magic, and you can be on your merry
He's got his own
way.
agenda. The casting of Max von Sydow, I think that was lovely for that, because you had this kind of experienced, wry, world-weary smile just at the end of the vision he shows Bran, which kind of, I think, alludes to the fact, as you just mentioned, that he's still got some kind of family to play for as well. He's gonna have a resurgence in popularity. His little cameo in Star Wars, and now his part in this. Little kids are gonna be like, "Who's this bloke?" I think that's gonna be cool. But I think we've
probably gone on long enough.
quite a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So let's wrap it up.
see
Did
what-
we like the episode?
Yes.
Yes, I think it's progressing nicely.
But not cinematically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not artistically.
Okay,
I just
yeah.
wish they'd have done a little bit more with John, because that is the TV moment of our generation,
Yeah.
essentially. There better be some like epic Azor Ahai revelations later, literally sword in the stone type shit. Suddenly, like in the Matrix, in the Matrix Reloaded, sorry, when Neo goes, something's changed. I can feel them when he's in the real world. I want something like that.
How is everybody going to react to this? Because Ollie's going to be just a little shit. Alice Thorne's going to be like, well, I didn't disobey an order.
I think
So-
they're going to rally right to his side, the Night's Watch, because it's some kind of, well, he's Christ, isn't he? They're all going to just
He's fucking
do
magic
that.
at this point.
He looks
Yeah.
like Jesus.
Yeah.
He dies under a cross like Jesus. He comes back, not even a couple of days later, a couple of hours later. So he's going to be their Christ. But anyway, we really have gone on too long
Yeah,
now.
yeah, that's-
So thank you very much,
yeah,
guys, for
thanks a
watching,
lot.
and we'll see you for the next time.
Yeah, man,
Yep.
keep an eye out for our review of the episode written, and obviously share this about.